Welcome to this time of reflection as we share together a passage from 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verses 13 through chapter 5 verse 1. The passage we are reflecting on today was written by the Apostle Paul. It is one of the many letters that he sent to the early church. In particular, this one is to the church in Corinth, encouraging them to hold fast to their faith as they wrestled with their understanding of this new faith and as they wrestled with persecution. His letters offer them strength and hope in the promises of God's abiding love. He reinforces that while it might be difficult, as those who have chosen to follow Jesus' example to share their faith, it is every part of discipleship. He says, "We believe, and so we speak," a verse he borrowed from the Psalms. Belief is more than words, but actions as well. Belief is expressed in our very beings. Paul continually highlights that point throughout his letters to the early church. Regardless of hardships, faith is the driving force that enables growth beyond a particular moment in time. Prior to these verses, Paul expresses this in his but nots, when he writes, we are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. Faith is about clinging to the truth of God's faithful presence, even while facing challenges, obstacles, whatever threatens to stand in the way of love and a full life. In many ways, we have experienced this place over the past year plus as we navigated our way through the pandemic. Tragically, some have known loss, others illness, fear, worry, depression, uncertainty, confusion. It has been a time that we will never forget. A time that has challenged our faith in ways we would have never imagined before. And it still does. It touches upon our lives. Its touch upon our lives still remains. There are aspects of our lives that will never be the same. But one thing does remain certain: the truth of our faith. As Paul previously states, we are all vessels of clay. Vessels that are fragile and even chipped and broken. But within those vessels, within ourselves, the vessels that we are, we also carry, as Paul says, a treasure, which is the gift of Spirit that continually feeds our souls with hope and with promise. It is what Jesus once said to his disciples: "Be in the world, but not of it." We exist bodily in physical time and space. We are vessels. But that is only a part of who we are in this moment. Indeed, we also possess the treasured gift of the Spirit that transcends all time and space, and in which we can know the greater truth of never-ending life. What came to me as I sat and considered this passage was another verse from Psalm 45. "Be still and know that I am God." It is in the stillness that we can hear God's voice, in the quiet that we can feel divine presence, in the moments when we silence our inner voices that we become aware of peace. Stillness does not mean that we have to close ourselves away from the hustle and bustle of life in order to know God, but rather be intentional throughout our day to recognize the presence of God that is truly everywhere around us. The familiar phrase, "stop and smell the roses," touches on the importance of taking time in our busy lives to simply be. Even more than that, our faith actually implies that our being is where our fulfillment in life happens. Our flourishing, our growing, our sense of peace and contentment. Amid the busyness of our lives, many, and maybe we fall into that category too, seldom take the time to recognize that inner spirit. We're too busy, we say. I don't have time to just be. But as the book title that I had many years ago said, "Too Busy Not to Pray," I believe we can also, and perhaps even more accurately, say that we are too busy not to recognize the spirit within us, our very being. It is not merely a part of who we are, it is who we are. There is an awakening to that truth throughout faith. An evolving awareness that our faith invokes the acknowledgement that God does not exist outside of us, but rather within us. When Paul suggested that we are vessels of clay, he highlighted that we carry within us a treasure, the truth of who Jesus is, the power of that Spirit. I see that as not only knowing the Spirit within, but acting out of that place in our daily interactions in life. God is not out there somewhere, but in reality within us, connecting us to one another, and through us, continuing to create a world of harmony and of peace. Discipleship then means living and acting from that inner place of wholeness. There are two lines that stand out most in my mind as I read through this passage. The first one, our inner nature is being renewed day by day. And the second, we look not at what can be seen, but what cannot be seen. Both of these lines speak volumes to me as I see them, and I see in them the importance of reinforcing the care that we must give to our inner selves. What we cannot see is the Spirit alive within us that, given our attention and care, will flourish in our actions and our daily living. What we cannot see reveals itself in what we do. It is what Paul implied when he quoted the psalm, "We believe, so we speak." Trusting in the Spirit within becomes our voice and becomes embodied in all that we do. Just last week, we came close to losing one of our hens to a fox, a brazen and determined fox. Fortunately, we were there to see what was happening and were able to chase the fox away and secure our hens in their coop. 3 more times that fox came back determined and then finally gave up. But we knew that the following day this was likely to happen again. With extra fences that we've had to keep the woodchuck out of our vegetable gardens, we set up 2 around the coop as double protection and ran power off of the bison fence. So far, so good. I tell this story because I think about that fencing to protect our hens in this moment as a visual to the powerful presence of Spirit within us, that when we place our trust in that truth, will give us the confidence to live in the world, but not become overcome by it, by the negativity that threatens our well-being and diminishes or seeks to diminish our light. May we continually grow in awareness of the Spirit that is gifted to us, that dwells within us, that is God within us, that is the unifying presence of life and the creative power of hope. Blessings and peace to you this day and always. Amen.